Jiwan stared at the alien ship through the thick glass of the observation deck. The vessel looked like a giant crystal floating in space, its surface glowing with soft blue and purple lights. He had studied alien biology for 10 years, but this was his first time seeing real aliens. "Remember, no sudden movements," Captain Minho said as he checked his uniform one last time. "We don't know their customs yet." Jiwan nodded and picked up his tablet. His hands were shaking a little. The Viridians had agreed to meet humans for the first time. This moment would change everything for both species. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. 3 tall figures stepped into the human ship. Jiwan's breath caught in his throat. The Viridians were beautiful in a way he had never imagined. Their skin looked like polished stone but moved like normal flesh. Patterns of light danced across their faces and arms, changing colors as they looked around. The tallest Viridian stepped forward. She was clearly female, with long silver hair that seemed to move on its own. Her skin glowed with gentle green and blue patterns. When she spoke, her voice was like music. "I am Kyla, lead scientist of the Viridian fleet. We come in peace to learn about your species." Captain Minho smiled and bowed slightly. "Welcome aboard the Harmony. I am Captain Minho, and this is our xenobiologist, Jiwan." Kayla's glowing patterns changed to bright yellow when she looked at Jiwan. He wondered what that meant. Her large eyes, which were silver like her hair, studied him with obvious interest. "A xenobiologist," she said. "How wonderful. I study the biology of other species too. Perhaps we can learn from each other." Jiwan found his voice. "I would be honored to share knowledge with you." The meeting room was set up with chairs for humans and special platforms for the Viridians. As they talked, Jiwan noticed that Kayla's light patterns changed often. Sometimes they were calm blues and greens. Other times they flashed bright gold or deep purple. "On our world," Kayla explained, "we communicate through both words and light. These patterns show our emotions and thoughts." "That's amazing," Jiwan said, making notes on his tablet. "So you can't hide your feelings?" Kayla's patterns turned a soft pink. "Not easily. It makes us very honest with each other." For the next 3 hours, they shared information about their species. Jiwan learned that Viridians lived for over 200 human years. They could see colors that humans couldn't even imagine. Their technology used living crystals that grew instead of being built. Kayla was fascinated by human biology. She asked many questions about how humans healed from injuries and how they adapted to different environments. "Your species is so flexible," she said, her patterns glowing bright white with excitement. "Viridians are much more fixed in our ways." "Maybe that's good," Jiwan replied. "Stability has its benefits." Kyla tilted her head, a gesture that looked almost human. "You are very kind to say so." After the official meeting ended, Kayla asked if she could stay longer to continue their discussion. Captain Minho agreed, and the other Viridians returned to their ship. Jiwan showed Kayla around the science labs. She was amazed by human microscopes and computers. Her light patterns stayed bright gold the whole time, which Jiwan was starting to realize meant she was happy. "May I ask you something personal?" Jiwan said as they sat in the lab's small break room. "Of course. What do the different light patterns mean exactly?" Kayla's patterns shifted to a gentle blue. Blue means calm or thoughtful. Green is curiosity. Gold is joy or excitement. Red means anger or fear. Purple is, well, it's hard to translate. Deep affection, perhaps, and pink? Her patterns immediately turned pink again. She looked down at her hands. Embarrassment or attraction. Jiwan felt his cheeks get warm. Oh, they worked together every day for the next 3 weeks. Jiwan taught Kayla about human genetics and medicine. She showed him how Viridian technology worked with living materials. They found that despite being different species, they thought about problems in similar ways. Jiwan began to look forward to their daily meetings more than anything else. Kayla's light patterns were often pink or purple when they worked together. He hoped that meant she enjoyed their time as much as he did. One evening, as they finished reviewing data about human immune systems, Kayla suddenly went very still. Her patterns flickered between different colors rapidly. "Are you okay?" Jiwan asked. I think I need to return to my ship," she said quietly. Her patterns were now a deep, steady purple. "Did I say something wrong?" "No," she said, looking directly at him. "You said everything right. That's the problem." She left quickly, her patterns shifting to confused swirls of purple and blue. Jiwan didn't see her for 2 days. He worried that he had somehow offended her or broken some Viridian custom. Captain Minho assured him that the diplomatic talks were still going well, but Kayla had asked to work with other human scientists. On the third day, Medical Officer Huna came to find Jiwon in his lab. Her face was serious. "We need to talk," she said. Privately, they went to Huna's office. She closed the door and activated the privacy screen. "The Viridians have requested a medical consultation," she said. "Specifically, they want to understand human reproduction better." "Why?" Huna hesitated. "Because Kayla is pregnant." Jiwon felt like the floor had disappeared under his feet. "What?" "She's pregnant, Jiwon. And according to their biology scans, the father is human." The room spun around him. "That's impossible. We just talked and worked together. According to what the Viridians told me, their species doesn't reproduce the same way humans do. They don't need physical contact. They can conceive when two individuals form a deep intellectual and emotional connection." Jiwon sat down heavily in a chair. "A connection? The kind of connection you and Kayla clearly formed over the past few weeks." Hyuna's voice was gentle but serious. "Jiwon, there's something else. In Viridian culture, pregnancy creates a permanent bond between the parents. Once a female conceives, she belongs to her mate for life. And now, according to their customs, Kayla belongs to you forever." Jiwon couldn't sleep. He had been staring at the ceiling of his quarters for hours, thinking about what Hyuna had told him. Kayla was pregnant with his child. Somehow, without even touching her, he had created a life with an alien woman, and according to her people's customs, she now belonged to him forever. The thought terrified him. A soft chime from his door interrupted his worried thoughts. When he opened it, Kayla stood in the hallway. Her light patterns were dim and constantly changing, blues mixed with purples and occasional flashes of red. "May I come in?" she asked quietly. Jiwon stepped aside to let her enter. She sat on the small couch in his quarters, her hands folded in her lap. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You know," she finally said. "Yes." "I'm sorry," Kayla said, her patterns turning deep blue. "I should have explained our biology better. I should have warned you that this could happen." "Did you know it was possible?" Kayla's patterns flickered. "I hoped it wasn't. Our scientists thought the species barrier would prevent it. We were wrong." Jiwon sat down across from her. "What happens now?" "That depends on you," she said softly. "In my culture, I now belong to you. My life, my future, my loyalty, all of it is yours by right. But you are human. Your customs are different." "I don't want to own anyone," Jiwon said quickly. Kayla's patterns shifted to a warm gold. "I know, that's one of the reasons this happened." Before Jiwon could ask what she meant, his communicator beeped. Captain Minho's voice came through, tense and urgent. "All senior staff to the bridge immediately. We have a situation." When they arrived at the bridge, the main screen showed 3 more Viridian ships approaching. These were larger than Kayla's vessel and had a different design, more angular and threatening. "They arrived 20 minutes ago," Minho explained. "They're demanding to speak with whoever is responsible for the situation." A new Viridian face appeared on the screen. This one was male, with sharp features and patterns that pulsed angry red. When he saw Kayla standing next to Jiwon, his patterns flared even brighter. "Kayla," he said, his musical voice now harsh, "you bring shame to our entire species." "Theron," Kayla replied, her own patterns turning defensive orange. "I did not expect to see you here. When the news reached our homeworld that you had bonded with an alien, the council sent me to bring you home. We will find a way to break this contamination." Jiwon stepped forward. "Contamination?" Theron's silver eyes fixed on him with obvious disgust. "You have corrupted one of our finest scientists, human. Kayla was to be my mate. She was promised to me since childhood." "I didn't know," Jiwon said. "I never meant for any of this to happen." "Ignorance doesn't excuse the crime," Theron snapped. "You have stolen what was mine." Kayla's patterns flashed bright red. "I am not property to be stolen, Theron. The bonding happened naturally. It cannot be undone." "It can if the alien dies," Theron said coldly. Captain Minho moved between Jiwon and the screen. "Are you threatening a member of my crew?" "I am stating Viridian law," Theron replied. "If the male dies before the child is born, the female can be freed from the bond. I challenge the human to ritual combat. Absolutely not, Minho said firmly. Theron's patterns turned deadly calm. Then we will take Kayla by force. She carries a child that is part Viridian. That child belongs to our people. The screen went dark. Immediately, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The Viridian vessels were powering up their weapons. All hands to battle stations, Minho ordered. This is not a drill. In the chaos that followed, Jiwan found himself pulled aside by Kayla. Her patterns were swirling with fear and determination. I have to go back to them, she said. No, Jiwan said immediately. We'll find another way. You don't understand. If I don't return willingly, they will destroy your ship. Theron means what he says. Then I'll fight him. Kayla's patterns turned bright white with shock. Jiwan, no. Ritual combat is to the death. You're brave, but Theron has trained for this his entire life. He's stronger and faster than any human. Maybe, Jiwan said, but I have something he doesn't. What? I have something worth fighting for. Medical Officer Huna appeared at Jiwan's shoulder. There's something else you both need to know. I've been analyzing the biological scans of the pregnancy. This isn't just any child. She activated her tablet, showing complex genetic charts. The baby is developing abilities from both species, enhanced intelligence from the Viridians, but also human adaptability and creativity. This child could be the key to both our species' futures. All the more reason for them to want the baby, Jiwan said grimly. Or all the more reason to protect it, Huna replied. I've been reading about Viridian customs. The ritual combat isn't just about winning Kayla back. It's about proving worthiness. If you can show that you're worthy of her bond, even Theron would have to accept it. Kayla's patterns were cycling through rapid changes. You would risk your life for me? For a child you never planned to have. Jiwan looked at her, really looked at her. Over the past weeks, he had grown to admire her brilliant mind, her gentle humor, and her genuine kindness. Her light patterns had become as familiar to him as facial expressions. When she was happy, he felt happy. When she was worried, he wanted to comfort her. Yes, he said simply, I would. Her patterns turned the deepest purple he had ever seen from her. Captain Minho's voice came over the intercom. Jiwan, report to my ready room. We need to discuss your options. As they walked toward the captain's quarters, Kayla caught Jiwan's arm. Her touch was warm and sent a strange tingling sensation through his skin. If you do this, she said quietly, if you accept the challenge, there's no going back. Win or lose, you will be part of Viridian society forever. Is that what you want? Jiwan thought about his life before meeting her. He had been dedicated to his work, fascinated by alien biology but lonely. He had no close family, few friends. His entire world had been his research. Now he had a chance at something more. A chance at a family, even if it wasn't the kind he had ever imagined. I think, he said slowly, it's exactly what I want. The arena was unlike anything Jiwan had ever seen. The Viridians had built it in the cargo bay of their largest ship, using their living crystal technology. Walls of glowing stone rose up around a circular floor that pulsed with soft light. Hundreds of Viridians stood on platforms that grew from the walls like crystalline balconies. Jiwan stood in the center of the arena, wearing simple clothes that the Viridians had provided. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was clear. He had spent the last 2 days learning about Viridian combat traditions from Kayla. Remember, she had told him, this isn't just about physical strength. The ritual tests 3 things: intelligence, courage, and spiritual connection. Theron expects you to fight like a human. Surprise him. Now, as Jiwan waited for his opponent to appear, he could see Kayla sitting in a place of honor near the arena floor. Her patterns were dim with worry, but when their eyes met, she gave him a small nod of encouragement. Theron entered from the opposite side of the arena. He was taller than Jiwan and clearly stronger. His light patterns showed confident gold mixed with angry red. In his hands, he carried 2 curved blades that gleamed like metal, but were actually grown from crystal. An elderly Viridian with intricate silver patterns covering his entire body stepped forward. This was Elder Vex, the leader of the Viridian Council. His voice echoed through the arena. We gather today to witness the trial of worthiness. The human Jiwan has bonded with our daughter Kayla and created new life. Theron claims this bond is false and challenges for the right to take her as his own mate. Let the trial begin. The first test was intelligence. Elder Vex presented them with a complex puzzle made of shifting crystal pieces. The goal was to arrange the pieces so that light could flow through them in a specific pattern. Theron began working immediately, his movements quick and confident. Ji-won studied the puzzle for a long moment. He could see that Theron was approaching it the traditional Viridian way, using mathematical sequences that were taught to their children. But Ji-won noticed something else. The crystal pieces weren't just geometric shapes. They also looked like living forms. Instead of following the mathematical approach, Ji-won arranged the pieces like he was building an ecosystem. He put the pieces that looked like plants at the bottom, creatures in the middle, and sky-like pieces at the top. When he finished, light flowed through the puzzle in a complex pattern that looked like a living world. The Viridian audience made soft sounds of amazement. Even Theron stopped his own work to stare. Elder Vex's patterns turned bright white. The human sees with different eyes, the elder said. He has created not just a solution but a work of art. The first test is his. Theron's patterns flashed angry red, but he said nothing. The second test was courage. They were led to a deep pit filled with thick, glowing liquid. At the bottom, barely visible, was a small crystal that they had to retrieve. The liquid wasn't dangerous, but it was completely opaque. Once they went under, they would be blind and have to find the crystal by touch alone. Theron went first. He dove in confidently and was underwater for nearly 10 minutes before surfacing with the crystal. The crowd cheered. When it was Ji-won's turn, he stood at the edge of the pit for a moment. The liquid looked like it would be very heavy and hard to move through. But instead of diving straight down like Theron had, Ji-won did something unexpected. He began to sing. It was a simple human song, one his mother had sung to him as a child. His voice echoed through the arena as he lowered himself into the liquid. The Viridians watched in confusion as he continued singing even when the liquid covered his mouth. Ji-won knew that sound traveled differently through liquids. By listening to how his voice changed, he could map the shape of the pit around him. When he found the crystal, he was back at the surface in less than 5 minutes. Fascinating, Elder Vex said. The human uses abilities we do not possess. His courage is not in ignoring danger but in finding new ways to face it. The second test is also his. Now Theron's patterns showed real worry mixed with his anger. He had never lost even one test in ritual combat before. The final test was spiritual connection. Both fighters were brought to stand before Kayla. Elder Vex explained that they must demonstrate their bond with her using only their presence. No words, no touch. Theron went first. His patterns turned deep purple as he stared at Kayla. She looked back at him politely, but her own patterns remained neutral blue-green. They had known each other since childhood, been promised to each other for years, but there was no real connection between them. When Ji-won's turn came, he simply stood in front of Kayla and smiled. He thought about all the hours they had spent together, sharing knowledge and ideas. He remembered how her patterns had turned pink that first day when she felt attraction. He thought about their child growing inside her, a bridge between two species. Something amazing happened. Kayla's patterns began to glow brighter and brighter. But more than that, Ji-won's skin began to show faint patterns of light as well. The Viridian audience gasped. Humans weren't supposed to be able to do that. Impossible, Theron whispered. Elder Vex stepped closer to examine Ji-won's glowing skin. Not impossible, changed. The bond between them is so strong that it has awakened dormant abilities in the human. They are truly connected, body and spirit. Kayla stood up, her patterns now blazing with joy. He carries part of me now, as I carry part of him. This is what true bonding means. Elder Vex raised his hands for silence. The trial is complete. Ji-won of the human species has proven his worthiness through intelligence, courage, and spiritual connection. The bond between him and Kayla is recognized as true and permanent. Theron's patterns went dark with defeat. According to tradition, he had to accept the result. But as Ji-won walked toward Kayla, Theron suddenly raised one of his crystal blades. If I cannot have her, he snarled, then no one can. He lunged toward Kayla with the blade aimed at her heart. Ji-won moved without thinking, putting himself between the weapon and the woman he loved. The crystal blade pierced his shoulder, sending sharp pain through his body. But something unexpected happened. The moment Theron's blade touched Ji-won's skin, it began to crack and crumble. The weapon that could cut through almost anything was destroyed by contact with Ji-won's new light patterns. Theron stumbled backward in shock. Ji-won stood protectively in front of Kayla, his shoulder bleeding but his eyes steady. I said I would protect her, Jiwon said quietly. I meant it. Elder Vex's patterns turned brilliant gold. Truly, this human understands what it means to be bonded to one of our daughters. Welcome, Jiwon, to the family of the Viridians. 3 months had passed since the bonding ritual. Jiwon now lived aboard the Viridian ship, learning their ways while staying connected to his human crew. His shoulder had healed completely, leaving only a faint scar that glowed softly when Kayla was nearby. The pregnancy was progressing well, but it was unlike anything either species had seen before. The baby was growing faster than a normal Viridian child but slower than a human one. Medical scans showed brain development that amazed both human and Viridian doctors. Look at this, Huna said, pointing to the latest scan results. The baby's neural pathways are forming in patterns we've never seen. It's like the child is developing 2 different kinds of intelligence at the same time. Kayla placed her hand on her growing belly. Her patterns had changed since the pregnancy began, showing new colors that sparkled like starlight. She moves when you speak, Jiwon. I think she recognizes your voice. She? Jiwon asked, surprised. I can sense it, Kayla said softly. Our daughter. She will be beautiful. Jiwon felt a wave of emotion he had never experienced before. He was going to be a father. The idea still amazed and terrified him equally. But not everyone was happy about the pregnancy. Reports came in daily from both Earth and the Viridian homeworld about protests and angry groups who opposed the Union. Humans shouldn't mix with aliens, some Earth politicians said on the news broadcasts. This is dangerous for our genetic purity. On the Viridian side, traditional groups called the pregnancy an abomination and demanded that Kayla be exiled from their society. They're afraid, Captain Minho explained during one of their regular meetings. Both sides are afraid of change, but fear makes people do stupid things. The stupidity became dangerous 2 weeks later. Jiwon was in the Viridian ship's garden, a beautiful space filled with crystal trees and glowing flowers, when alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Elder Vex appeared on the communication screens, his patterns flashing urgent red. All personnel to emergency stations. We are under attack. Through the transparent walls of the garden, Jiwon could see human ships approaching. But these weren't official Earth Navy vessels. They were smaller, privately owned ships with weapons that shouldn't have existed. Pirates, Kayla said, her patterns turning pale with fear. Or worse, the Human Purity League. Jiwon had heard of the League. They were a terrorist group that believed humans should never interact with alien species. He had never thought they would be bold enough to attack a diplomatic mission. The Viridian ship shook as weapons fire hit its shields. Through his communicator, Jiwon could hear Captain Minho coordinating the defense of the human vessel. They're not just trying to destroy us, Minho reported. They're specifically targeting the sections where Kayla and Jiwon are staying. Someone told them exactly where to aim. A chill ran down Jiwon's spine. There's a spy. Another explosion rocked the ship. This time the lights flickered and went out for several seconds. When they came back on, Kayla was holding her belly with both hands, her patterns flashing with pain. The baby, she gasped. Something's wrong. Jiwon helped her to the medical bay where Viridian healers were already preparing for emergencies. The scans showed that the stress of the attack was affecting the pregnancy. The baby's heart rate was too fast and her growth patterns were becoming irregular. She's trying to be born too early, the head healer explained. The fear and trauma are triggering premature labor. We need to keep Kayla calm and safe or we could lose them both. But the attacks continued. The League ships had somehow obtained advanced weapons that could penetrate Viridian shields. Worse, they seemed to know exactly where the ship's weak points were. We have to move Kayla to a safer location, Jiwon said. Where? Elder Vex asked. They're surrounding us, and our own ship is the most secure place we have. That's when Jiwon had an idea. It was risky and probably crazy, but it might work. What if we don't try to keep them away from us? He said. What if we let them get close? Everyone stared at him. Kayla's patterns flickered with confusion and worry. Explain, Elder Vex said. The League wants to capture or kill us, right? So they're not going to blow up their own ships. If we evacuate everyone except Kayla and me to the human vessels, then dock the Viridian ship with one of the League ships, they won't be able to attack without risking their own people, Captain Minho said, understanding immediately. Brilliant. It's also incredibly dangerous, Huna pointed out. You'll be trapped on a ship with armed terrorists. But they want us alive, Jiwon said. At least long enough to make a political statement. That gives us time. Time for what? Kyla asked. Jiwan looked at her, his newly developed light patterns glowing with determination. Time for our daughter to teach both our species something important. The plan worked better than anyone expected. The League ships couldn't resist the chance to capture their targets easily. When the Viridian ship attached itself to the largest League vessel, the terrorists boarded immediately. They found Jiwan and Kayla in the ship's central chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the baby's development. The League leader, a harsh-faced woman named Director Park, approached them with obvious disgust. "So you're the traitors who sold out humanity to the aliens," she said. "We're the people who created a bridge between two species," Jiwan replied calmly. "You created an abomination," Park snapped. "That thing you're carrying isn't human or alien. It's a monster." Kayla's patterns flashed angry red. "How dare you speak about our child that way?" "It's not a child," Park said. "It's a weapon. The aliens are using you to corrupt human genetics." "Then look at the scans," Jiwan said, gesturing to the holographic displays. "See what our monster really is." Despite herself, Park looked at the medical data floating in the air around them. Her expression slowly changed from disgust to confusion to amazement. The baby wasn't just developing normally. She was developing extraordinarily. The scans showed brain patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond either parent species. But more than that, they showed something else. The child was developing the ability to communicate with both human and Viridian technology simultaneously. "She's not a weapon," Jiwan said softly. "She's a translator, a living bridge who can help our species truly understand each other." One of Park's soldiers lowered his weapon. "Director, look at this data. This child could solve communication problems we've had for months." "It's a trick," Park said, but her voice was less certain. That's when the baby decided to make her own statement. The holographic displays suddenly came alive with new patterns. Not human computer graphics or Viridian light sculptures, but something entirely new. Beautiful spirals of light and color flowed through the air, accompanied by soft musical tones. "She's dreaming," Kayla whispered in wonder. "Our daughter is dreaming, and she's sharing it with both of our technologies." The dream patterns told a story without words. They showed two different kinds of beings learning to work together, creating something more beautiful than either could make alone. They showed stars and planets, families and children, all connected by threads of light and love. Even Director Park was staring in amazement. "How is this possible?" "Love," Jiwan said simply. "Love made it possible." The birth happened 6 months later in a specially built medical facility that combined human and Viridian technology. Representatives from both species watched as Kayla brought their daughter into the world. Nara was beautiful beyond anything Jiwan could have imagined. She had her mother's silver hair and luminous skin, but her eyes were dark like Jiwan's. Most amazing of all, her skin showed faint light patterns even as a newborn, soft blues and greens that pulsed gently with her heartbeat. "She's perfect," Jiwan whispered, holding his daughter for the first time. Nara opened her eyes and looked directly at him. For a moment he felt a strange sensation in his mind, warm, loving, and completely peaceful. "She's connecting with you," Kayla said weakly but happily. "I can feel it too. She's already building bridges between our thoughts." The baby's birth had changed everything. The terrorist attack had been stopped not by weapons or force, but by the simple beauty of a child's dreams. Director Park and her followers had surrendered without firing another shot. Many of them asked to join the research team studying human-Viridian cooperation. "We were wrong," Park admitted later. "We thought mixing with aliens would make us weaker. But your daughter, she's not less human. She's more than human, more than Viridian too." News of Nara's birth spread quickly across both civilizations. What had started as fear and protests turned into fascination and hope. Scientists from both species wanted to study how her unique abilities worked. Diplomats saw her as the key to deeper cooperation between their peoples. But for Jiwan and Kayla, she was simply their daughter. They settled on a new space station built specifically for human Viridian families. It orbited a beautiful blue star halfway between Earth and the Viridian homeworld. The station's design combined the best of both technologies, human engineering and Viridian living crystals working together. As Nara grew, her abilities became even more remarkable. By age 3, she could speak both human languages and Viridian light speech. She played with children from both species equally, translating between them when they couldn't understand each other. "Watch this," she said one day when she was 5 years old. She was showing her parents a game she had invented with her friends, 3 human children and 2 young Viridians. The children stood in a circle. Nara began to glow softly, and immediately all 5 children started making the same patterns with their hands while humming the same melody. The human children couldn't see the light patterns the Viridians were making, and the Viridians couldn't understand human speech perfectly. But through Nara they all moved together like they shared one mind. "She's teaching them to be connected," Kayla said in amazement. "Not just to communicate, but to truly understand each other." More families like theirs began to form. Other humans and Viridians found deep connections and had children together. Each child was unique, with different combinations of abilities from both parent species. The space station grew into a small city, then a large one. They called it Haven, and it became the center of a new kind of civilization, one where the barriers between species didn't matter. 10 years after Nara's birth, Jiwan stood on an observation deck watching the latest group of ships arrive. These carried families from 3 other alien species who wanted to join their community. Nara, now a confident teenager, was already learning their languages and customs so she could help them settle in. "Do you regret it?" Kayla asked, joining him at the window. Her patterns had grown more complex over the years, showing depths of emotion that still amazed him. "Regret what? Giving up your old life? Your research career on Earth? The simple existence you had before?" Jiwan looked at his wife, his true bondmate, as the Viridians called it. His skin still showed light patterns when he was near her, though he had learned to control them better. Their connection had only grown stronger over the years. "I didn't give up my old life," he said. "I traded it for a better one." Nara came running up to them, her patterns bright with excitement. She had grown tall like her mother, but had her father's gentle smile. "The new families are asking if we can help them learn the station's systems," she said. "Their children want to play with the others, but they don't understand how the gravity fields work." "Of course we'll help," Jiwan said. "That's what families do." As they walked together toward the docking bay, Jiwan thought about that first day when he had met Kayla. He had been a lonely scientist studying alien life from a distance. Now he was living among the stars with a family that spanned species and a community that was creating something entirely new. "I belong to you forever," Kayla had said all those years ago, using the traditional Viridian words. At first those words had frightened him. He had thought they meant ownership or obligation. Now he understood what they really meant. They meant choice. The choice to build a life together, to face challenges together, to create something beautiful together. And he had made the same choice in return. "I love you always," he told her as they walked, using the phrase that had become their personal promise to each other. Her patterns glowed soft purple in response, and Nara giggled as her own skin sparkled with reflected light. Behind them, through the great windows of Haven, ships from a dozen worlds moved among the stars. Families from different species lived and worked and played together. Children who were bridges between civilizations grew up thinking that love and understanding were the most natural things in the universe, and at the center of it all was a simple truth that Jiwan had learned from a brilliant alien scientist with silver hair and a heart full of light. Love doesn't recognize boundaries. It builds bridges instead. The pregnancy that had started as an accident had become the foundation of a new kind of society. The bond that had begun with curiosity and respect had grown into something that would last forever. As they reached the docking bay and began welcoming the newest families to Haven, Jiwan realized that Kayla had been right from the beginning. She did belong to him forever, not as property, but as a choice they renewed every day. And he belonged to her the same way, forever and always, across any distance, beyond any difference. Their love would continue to build bridges between worlds.